All right. This is round two. We were having some audio troubles the first time around. So if you're on Instagram, I'm going to start from the beginning just so everyone can hear. If you're on Facebook, please let me know if the sound is working. Please drop a comment and let me know either way so I can rectify the situation if necessary. I'm here in my new digs in Naramata, BC. I've got my new recording studio set up, and it's feeling so good to be going for walks every day and just yay! Okay, confirmation. We have sound. Okay, awesome. So today's topic is super important. I'm really excited to share it with you. And as you know, I do these videos every week to answer whatever's on your mind in the realm of relationship, tantra, sexuality, shadow work. And every week I pick a question and design a little talk around it. So this week's question is from Caitlin, and it's around how to release a partner and recenter within ourselves. And this is so important because breaking up is one of the hardest experiences that we go through. So any help here is usually appreciated. And in the talk today, I'm going to share a few biographical things on ways that I've been able to navigate relationships ending and the different types of endings that are there. I'm going to share with you my 3 top strategies in how to break up to break through. There's ways, secret little things we can do that will actually benefit us in the long run. And I know at the moment it just feels like, how do I survive? But why not, throw in a little thriving too? So I'll share with my top 3 strategies with you, as well as some what not to do's. And if you stick around till the very end, even in advanced practice, if you've been practicing Tantra for a while, I'm going to give you something that you can use that might take a few years to build up to, but is super, super powerful. All right. So my number 1 strategy for navigating breakups is, you're not going to like this, we got to feel it to heal it. Okay? So I don't know about you, but in those dark moments, suddenly the fridge starts filling with different flavors of ice cream, and Netflix starts getting exponentially more airtime, and maybe even the dating apps start to be calling out some sort of rebound siren call. Well, those are all the things we don't want to do, okay? We have to feel it to heal it. And this involves taking a different approach. So often we process our emotions and our breakups all through our heads. We might go to a counseling session, we might have conversations with friends analyzing what went wrong. And that's good and useful, but we really have to switch our focus and find a way to feel and process right in the tissues of our body. You might have heard the phrase, our issues are in the tissues. And if we don't acknowledge them from the level of our physicality, I know it's a little strange, it's a different way of doing things, but if we don't process through our body, those issues stay in the tissues. So this is something I work with a lot one-on-one because there's many ways we can do this. And I'll help you find a way to do this regularly so that we can start moving them through you, processing, just like your coffee pot or coffee maker in the morning percolates all the way down into your cup. We want to percolate all of the thoughts and the traumas through the body so that they can clear. So the issues are in the tissues unless we work them out in the tissues, unless we process them in the tissues. And you can look at things from the perspective of your mind, and that's how we're trained. But Tantra allows us a whole different frame of reference, a whole different lens to see things through. So it's like you start thinking and feeling with the actual atoms and the actual molecules in your body. It feels cool to process an issue from your body. It's actually way easier than processing it from your mind. So personally, the way that I do this is I'll actually dance it out. I'll do a practice every time I feel like going for the ice cream. I'll take at least 10 minutes and put on some music and move and breathe and just visualize that coffee pot percolating down through every cell of my body. And it's like this energetic shower moving through. And the reason we want to do this is because we don't want those issues stuck in our tissues for our next relationship and our next one and the next one after that. We want to clear those out, really seize the opportunity and clear those out so we have a fighting chance in our next relationship. So we have a chance to experience something new. So I want to say hi to Andreas and Roger and Gabriella. Good to see you all, and thank you for the heads up on sound. All right, so within the first strategy, there's also this kind of climax point we can get to. This strategy has the potential to give you, wait for it, it has a potential to give you a spiritual awakening. And I know it sounds crazy, like why in the worst time of my life when all I want to do is figure out how to survive, the last thing I'm thinking about is a spiritual awakening. But this is a lesson that I learned really early on. I was much younger at that point and I had less tools. And honestly, I think that the pain of the breakup was more than the container of my psyche. I couldn't kept it. When I tried to reason with myself about why this had happened, it was like I just got bowled over by this energy. It kept coming at me and I couldn't even hold it. I wanted to explode. I just wanted to die. And so in a way, I kind of did. I decided that I had to surrender to this energy, to this pain. It was, at that point, the deepest pain I had ever felt. And because the pain seemed so much stronger than me, there was a moment where I felt like my only choice was to completely surrender and allow myself to fall to the very center of this pain. And what that looks like is stopping resisting in any and all of its forms. Trying to negotiate mentally, like, oh, if I had just done that, it would have gone so much better. If they hadn't done this, none of this would have happened. All of that kind of mental negotiation is a form of resistance. And all of that is like this layer of ice that stops us getting to this place of surrender. So in that moment, because it was so intense, because I was so overwhelmed and overcome, I was able to let go of all of the inner negotiations. I was allowed to let go of all the why questions, all of the if only questions, and all of my negative feelings towards my ex-partner. Because I didn't know what else to do and I couldn't handle it for another second, all of that released and it felt like I was just sinking down into this place, right into the center of the pain, like almost like it was a ball. And the pain was so intense, but then I surrendered, so it got more intense. It's a little intense. And then more intense, but there was nothing left in me. And that's really when it's the easiest to surrender, is when we don't have any strength to fight anymore. And that's the point I was at. So I fell into this place, which I've later come to call the delicious core, where it was beyond the stories, it was beyond the identity, and it was in a place that is truly blissful. I know it sounds crazy, but being blissful doesn't mean not having bad days. It doesn't mean always feeling ecstatic. It means that you've sunk so deeply into yourself, into your delicious core, that any of the emotions on the spectrum feel like home. Any of the emotions on the spectrum feel like the true you, who's really not affected by the vicissitudes of life. So this was my experience, and it's something that I've used later on in relationships. And it's only worked for me in the most devastating breakups. It doesn't work if it's something casual that's only been going on for a while. But when the pain is so intense, the tantric methodology is always, how can we use this? It's never, how can we push this away? Not with any emotion, not with anger, not with jealousy, not with fear. It's, how can we reform our relationship with this energy or emotion in order for us to get the most out of it? And so even heartbreak, and I would say especially heartbreak, can be used to get the juice and to get the spiritual development and to get that heart opening. And in case you don't believe me, I've had a situation where there was a visible kind of lightness around me. People would comment, what, have you been drinking a lot of juice? Have you been doing a lot of yoga? Like, why are you glowing like that? And it was in the darkest, hardest breakups of my life because I learned how to break my heart open. Okay, so that might not be accessible today. I just want to share with you that's a crazy thing that can happen if we learn to break open instead of breaking closed. I want to move on now and share with you my second strategy, which is ritual, using ritual. In most ancient cultures, indigenous cultures, very rich, robust cultures, they have this way of marking and amplifying the different milestones of life through ritual. We have much less ritual built into our culture in North America. Just seeing Roger's comment, crazy is the way. I like that. Yeah. So we don't have as much ritual here in North America, but what it does is it helps us to make meaning of these milestones in our life and helps us to find a way to reorganize our psyche when it's been broken. And any big change in your life is really a death of something and a birth of something else. And a breakup is no different. So it's really essential to create ritual around this transition because it is a death and a rebirth. And we want to find a way to honor that, to make sense of that, to create meaning out of that so we have a way to hold it going forward. And it doesn't just break our psyche and leave it in a million pieces. We want to break our psyche, if that's what happens. We want to break it and then reform it into something beneficial, into something that will serve in the future. So there's many different ways that we can create these rituals. This is something that I can support you with to create a ritual that's personalized and right for you. But basically, we want to find a way to let go of that person. And in order to do that, we need to have a ritual of forgiveness. A ritual of forgiveness of not just them, but of us and all of the things that we're not proud of in that relationship. Having a ritual of appreciation where we truly appreciate both us and them for the gifts that we exchanged. And even in those hard ones, those hard relationships, we're exchanging gifts, always. So forgive, appreciate, and then release. There's different ways to release and to cut cords. One thing I want to emphasize, this is important, sometimes we're tempted to skip straight to release and just doing cord cutting right away. And in my experience, that's not a sustainable way to transition through a relationship. It's like we've done it halfway. And so there's these threads of kind of the gifts that are still hanging on, and there's a lack of closure. So really important to go through the forgiveness work and the appreciation work before we start cutting those cords. So the third way that we can help to transition through relationships is to mine the gold. And here's where we're allowed to use our brain a little bit. Our mind is going to be helpful. So after any breakup, that's where I call all my coach friends. Like, I need a session. Give me the shadow work. Give me the Tantra. Give me the counseling. Like, I want to mine every piece of gold out of this breakup because I did not go through that for nothing. This might be a little bit later in the process. That's why it's step 3, but it's essential so that we don't end up dating the same person over and over. You know, when you get in a new relationship and it's so fresh and exciting, and then the issues start arising after the honeymoon period, and you're like, am I dating the same person again? Like, what the heck? If you've had that experience, it might be because you skipped the 3rd step of mining the gold of that relationship. So now is a great time to book your session. You know, if you have a therapist, shadow work is wonderful for this. You can talk to me about shadow work or tantric alchemical methods of moving the energy through your body and your mind at the same time. This is also a great time to start to look at, like a detective with a fine-toothed comb. All right, what was the dynamic of this relationship? What was the kind of overarching theme of its ending? What are the patterns that I brought into this relationship that are similar to prior relationships? And what are the patterns that I shifted? What are the ways that I showed up in a new way in this relationship? And celebrate yourself for that. It's funny. My favorite type, if there's such a thing, my favorite type of breakups are the ones where I have a big aha moment, where it's like, oh, I broke a pattern. You know, I was doing that thing and now I didn't. And so I feel free and released, or it's really clear that I screwed it up and I know why I screwed it up. Those are my favorites. The ones I don't like are the ones where it feels like it wasn't about me at all. Have you ever had this? Where you get out of a relationship and it's really hard and something maybe difficult or even traumatic happens at the end of it. And when you're doing your work and mining the gold, there's nothing that pops out. Like, I wouldn't have done anything differently. That's because it's not always about us. Sometimes we are just there to push buttons, to ignite things, to blow things up. And we've just made that agreement with someone in another realm to play that part for them. So those are, personally, I feel those are the hardest ones because I can't get the satisfaction of learning my strong lesson. But there's always a lesson. So if you do your shadow work and you mine for your gold, even in those relationships, there's a takeaway. Okay, so that's the 3 main strategies that I found super helpful in my experience navigating breakups and helping us to not just survive them, but even eventually thrive in them. And again, as a quick summary, it's to feel it, to heal it, to bring in ritual, and to mine the gold. So now I want to share with you something a little bit deeper. And I make these videos for everyone, but often for people that are newer to Tantra, are really learning all of the gifts, all of the resources and the jewels of this tradition. But it's a very deep well. And so if you've been practicing for a while, you've started to form a relationship with archetypal energies, and particularly with the energies of Shiva and Shakti. Now, there's a very narrow band of frequency that humans are used to picking up. So we are used to picking up things that are tangible in the 3D world that I can see, touch, feel, taste. But there's things happening all around me all of the time. That's 5%. It's a very small amount of the information and the frequency that's available to us all the time. If you're highly empathetic, your band of frequency that you perceive is a little bit higher. If you have cities like telepathy, the ability to remote view, all of these kind of things, your band of frequency that you perceive is higher. Animals can hear things that we can't hear, and yogis can hear and perceive many things that the average person can't. So what happens when we're studying Tantra for a long time is our frequency of awareness widens. And we can start to perceive things in a different way. We can start to perceive subtler things. And some of the practices involve starting to relate with different energies or different deities in a way that's very palpable, that is so clear, and you're experiencing it so fully, but it's not necessarily coming from one of your five senses. As you start to form a relationship, you start to feel the energy in your body. You start to feel a connection to the universe, to the world that wasn't there before. And this is really what I want to share with you in all my videos, is that there's a way to create an intimacy with reality that can't be taken away. That's there in every single situation. And then you don't have to be afraid anymore, because it doesn't matter what happens. That intimacy and that oneness and that companionship, it's there always, because the whole universe becomes your lover. So the beauty with this is we can start to relate with deities in a way that's sort of romantic, sort of devotional. And in the Hindu tradition, there's a list of ways that you can relate with different deities. And I know this is going a little into the deep end right now. So if this is like not registering, don't worry. Just go back to the first 3 things in the video, because those are super tangible things that everyone can do. But if you're curious about the esoteric side of things, then I'll share a little bit more with you about this. So the Hindu tradition, there's different ways that we can relate to the divine. In Christianity, there's really one. It's kind of this patriarchal father figure, right? Well, in Hinduism, you've got that option, but you've also got the option to relate to the divine as a best friend, as a child, as a mother, or my personal favorite, as a beloved. And you see this a little bit in the Gnostic Christian teachings as well. What was her name? There was a beautiful Gnostic Christian, Saint Teresa of Avila. And there's actually statues of her in full orgasmic state, thinking about Christ and merging with Christ and allowing those energies to permeate her being, and really having a type of cosmic lovemaking with Christ. And to a traditional Christian mind, that might sound blasphemous, but in Hinduism, there's room for that. There's so much room from everything that I've experienced, in all my years in India and different countries studying Hinduism and Tantra. The kind of gist that I've gotten from it is, we don't give a shit how, just find a way to relate with the divine. Just find a way. It can be as sacred or as profane as you want. It can be as out there or orthodox as you want. Just find a fucking way to relate to the sacred, to the divine, to all that is, to creator, whatever you want to call it. Just get in there, guys, right? So that's one of my favorite things that I sort of assimilated into myself. And so this can be done in a romantic way with Shiva and Shakti. Shakti is the divine feminine force. You can feel her in all of the nature. You can feel her in a beautiful smile. You can feel her when you feel tingles running through your body. And so we can relate to her like a lover. We can also relate to Shiva, the divine masculine, this absolutely unshakable force of pure presence and awareness that encapsulates all of the qualities of the divine masculine. And through developing and cultivating a relationship with Shiva, you have a lover, always, a lover that can't be taken from you. I'm reminded of a yoga school that I used to study in, a tantric yoga school. And we were always encouraged to see Shiva in all of the men and see Shakti in all of the women, which is absolutely beautiful practice. But I remember once a friend of mine, and she said, that guy's not my Shiva. That guy's not my Shiva. Shiva is my Shiva. And when Shiva is your Shiva, you are always in union. You always have a partner. And that relationship is the one that underpins every other relationship of your life. Or Shakti. If you feel more compelled to merge with the divine feminine, then Shakti is your Shakti. Different forms, manifestations of Shakti may come and go, but Shakti is always your Shakti through all of them. So there's lots of tantric practices where we do learn to see the divine in each other, and Shiva and Shakti will come through the person in front of us, and we'll see them in their eyes, and it's quite mind-blowing. But we can do it without a person, because those two energies are running through, in between, and around everything. So ultimately, if we can increase that band of frequency that we perceive, we can have an experience of having a partner always, without fail, through lifetimes, through dimensions. And we never have to feel that feeling of being alone. So if you're still here to the end, congrats. I know this was a long one and things got a little esoteric, but do let me know if you want more videos like that, because I love to share the deeper teachings about Tantra if that's something that's resonating with you all. Thank you to everyone who's participating. If you want to get your question in next week, send me a comment or a DM, and I'll add you to the pile of amazing questions that's been growing. And you can connect with me at shamayatantra.com or at info@shamayatantra.com. Wishing you all a beautiful night, and I'll see you next week.